So very good morning all the students. Today we will see the theoretical part of the earthquake resistant design of the unit number 4, that is the last part, that is the buildings RC building with the ductile detailing considering as per IS 13920/1993. Okay, already in our previous lectures we have already seen one or two numericals based on the same codal provision. So today we will see the theoretical aspect of IS 13920/1993. Okay, so one question will be there from this topic, okay, for about 7 marks. Okay, so you can refer this this theory from the IS code of 13920. So first of all, introduction. The lateral load used in the seismic design are highly unpredictable. So we know that these lateral loads are very uh, uh, unpredictable. Okay, and the actual forces act on the structure during the earthquake are much higher than the design force. Okay, so it is also recognized that neither the complete protection against the earthquake of all the size is economically feasible nor design along based on the strength criteria. Okay, so based on that, the basic approach of earthquake resistant design should be based on the lateral strength as well as the deformation and the ductility capacity of the structure. Okay, so the collapse of the RC building is generally preventable if the following principle of earthquake can be observed. So first of all, what are the main principles are there? Let us see. So first of all, the failure should not be ductile, rather than it should be brittle. The failure should be ductile rather than brittle. Okay, the ductility with a large energy dissipation capacity with less deterioration in stiffness must be ensured. Second is the flexural failure should be proceeds shear failure, and the beam should fail before columns. Okay, so this is a capacity based design approach. One must follow this, okay, for the effective ductile failure of the structure. Okay, so the connection should be stronger than the member which is fitting them. So these principles should kept in mind while analyzing and designing the earthquake resistance buildings. So what the code suggests about this principle, let us see that. So the code IS 13920 entitled the ductile detail of the reinforced concrete structure subjected to seismic force is based on this approach, and it covers the requirement of the lateral strength design and the detailing of the monolithic reinforced concrete buildings. Okay, so that it gives them the adequate toughness and ductility to resist to the severe earthquake shock without collapse. And therefore the ductility of the structure in fact is one of the most important parameter or the factors which affect the seismic performance. And it has been clearly observed that well designed and detailed reinforced structure behave well during the earthquake, and the gap between the actual and design lateral force is narrowed down by providing the ductility in the structure. So by this paragraph what we conclude that one should design the structure keeping in mind the ductility provision in the reinforcement. Okay, so all this can be achieved by considering the code of IS 13920/1993. So let us see the advantage of ductility. A ductile reinforcement concrete structure may be taking care of the overload, load reversal, impact and secondary stresses which is developed due to the differential settlement of foundation. So this is the major advantage of ductility. Second is the ductile reinforced concrete structure give the occupant sufficient time to vacate the structure by showing the large deformation to its final collapse before. Then accordingly the loss of the life is minimum and the provision of the sufficient ductilities will be there. Okay, so next is the properly designed ductile joint are capable of resisting the forces and deformation of yielding of the steel reinforcement, and therefore the section can be reached their respective moment capacity, which is one of the assumption in the design of reinforced concrete structure. Then what are the consideration to be taken as per IS 13920? First of all, concrete. for all the building which is having more than 3 story in height. Okay, so this point is very important. Okay, so building which is having more than 3 story in height, the minimum grade of concrete shall be used as M20. That is, FCK is 20. Okay, so before M20 one should not consider any grade. That is, the M15 and M10 cannot be applicable if the story is more than 3 story. However, for the building more than 4 story or more than 15 meter in height, if it is situated in zone number 4 or 5, okay, that is a severe zone, then the minimum grade of concrete can be M25. So for that case, which is the building which is having in a very severe zone, the minimum grade of concrete should be M25. So most of the code worldwide specify the higher grade of concrete for a seismic region than that of non-seismic construction. So the higher grade of concrete facilitate the ductile behavior, as well as the concrete strength below M20 may not be requisite the strength in bond and shear. So this point should be in kept mind. Then the next is steel. Steel of having minimum grade of 415 should be there. Okay. Then however, the high strength deformed bar produced by the thermomechanically treated process, that is TMT, of the grade Fe 500 and 550 having an elongation more than 14.5%, and confirm the other requirement of IS 1786 1985 may also be used for the reinforcement. Okay, so this should be considered. So based on the tensile strength, sigma y actual minus sigma y specified should not be greater than 120 MPa. This parameter should be considered, and if the difference is more, then the shear or bond failure may precede the flexural hinge formation. And further, in order to develop the inelastic rotation, the structure member need an adequate length yield region along the axis of the member, and therefore sigma u actual versus divided by sigma y actual should be greater than equal to 1.4. So this is a factor of safety criteria for the stress in case of steel. Then the strong steel is not preferable to low strength steel in earthquake prone region, because the typical stress strain curve of a low steel show the following advantage. So first is long yield plate, then the greater breaking strain will be there, and the less strain gain will be after the first steel. Then the very important part is cover. So although cover is a very simple approach as far as the IS 456 is considered, but as per IS 13920, one should consider the cover in a very effective way. So to develop the required bond strength and to protect from the reinforcement against the corrosion, okay, the cover should be provided, and the minimum cover should comply the table number 16 of IS 456. Okay, so this should be considered. Then the flexural member. So this is, we know that the flexural failure is just like a bending failure, bottom face stretch in tension and vertical cracks up. So this is a typical failure of a beam which is subjected to the column on either side. Okay, simply supported failure is there. So this is a two type of damage in the beam. So one is flexural failure, second is a shear failure. So let us see how to avoid this flexural and shear because of the ductile detailing. So flexural, first of all, flexural, as a beam sag under the increased load, it can fail into two possible ways. First is relatively more steel is present, that is over reinforced section on tension side, then concrete crush in compression. Okay, and this brittle failure, this is a brittle failure, and therefore it is undesirable. And if relatively less steel is there on the tension side, the steel yield first and the redistribution occurs in the beam until eventually the concrete crush in the compression. So this is a ductile failure, and hence it is desirable. Okay, so under reinforced section is most desirable in case of a ductile failure rather than over reinforced section. So thus the more steel on tension is not necessary desired, and hence the ductile failure is characterized by many vertical cracks starting from the stretch beam face and going towards the mid depth. So okay, so the final output from this paragraph is that we know that there are two criteria of designing the beam, analyzing the beam. The first is under reinforced section, over reinforced section. So in this case, the beam should be designed as a under reinforced section rather than go for the over reinforced section. Okay, then the next part is shear failure. So beam may be failed due to shearing action, and hence the shear cracks which is inclined at 45 degree to the horizontal. Okay, so it develop the mid depth near the support and grow towards the top to the bottom face, and closed loop stirrups are provided to avoid the shearing action. So shear damage occurs when the area of these stirrups is insufficient. Okay, so shear failure is brittle, and therefore shear failure must be avoided in the design of RCC beams, because we required the ductile failure. Okay, so let us see what are the general provision for given by the IS 13920. First of all, the requirement apply to the frame members resisting earthquake induced forces and the design to resist the flexure. So let us see step by step. First is axial stress. So whatever the axial stresses develop in the structure, either maybe in column or in beam, the factor stress should be less than 0.1 time of FCK. So this check must be considered. Then we know that if we design the beam, it will be designed as a flexural member. So in that case, the axial stresses may be very less. Okay, so this is the second point. If it exceed the design member of the bending and axial load, so the following condition to be fulfilled. The first is dimension. Preferably B by D should be greater than 0.3 and B should be greater than 200 mm. Next is to avoid the difficulty in confining concrete through the stirrups in the narrow beam, the depth should be less than 1/4 of the clear span. Then the longitudinal reinforcement to ensure the adequate ductility. Okay, the following reinforcement must be limited to the dimension of the beam, then quality of the concrete and the yield stress of the reinforcement. So under the earthquake loading, the critical section of the longitudinal reinforcement in the frame occurs at the face of the beam column and the girder column connection, and at the beam girder connection immediately adjacent to the column. So since the distribution of the bending moment along the beam girder and framing into column may be quite different in severe earthquake from under the gravity load, so therefore the cutoff point of the bar to be required as a special consideration, and it is desirable that only the straight bar to be used. Okay, however the bent up bar may be used in the beam that do not frame into columns. Then the minimum bar requirement. So as per the codal provision of 13920, the minimum bar to be used in the beam as a flexural member is 12 mm. Okay, and there must be 2 bars both at top and bottom. Okay, so here it is can be seen in figure number 2. Let us see figure number 2. This is figure number 1. That is figure number 2. This figure number 2. Location and amount of longitudinal steel bar. So this is a longitudinal steel bar is provided. Okay, this is the total amount of steel from the calculation. Okay, this is a sagging calculation we required, and the bottom steel at the stirrup at least 1/2 of the top, this bottom steel, and at least 2 bars should be full length of the beam. This is calculated as per the LD provision. We know that the LD provision is development length, so that this bar can be anchored. Okay, this bar can be anchored in the column. Okay, so this provision must be considered. Next is to ensure the integrity of the member under the reverse loading, a construction required rather than behavior requirement. Okay, then the positive steel at the joint face must be least equal to half the negative steel to the face. Okay, then the compression reinforcement increase the ductility, and hence this provision ensure the adequate ductility at the potential yield. The seismic moment are reversible, and design seismic load may be exceeded by considering by the considerable margin during the stroke shaking, resulting in the development of the substantial sagging moment at the beam. Then next is the maximum steel ratio on any face of the section should not exceed 0.025. Okay, then the tensile steel reinforcement ratio on any face of the column shall not exceed 0.24 under root of FCK upon F1. So this provision must be followed. Okay, while providing the maximum steel and tensile steel. So this is a typical diagram is there to understand the above theoretical aspect. Then the steel provided at each top and bottom face of the member at any section along its length should be greater than 1/4 of the maximum negative steel provided at the face of either side. Okay, so this point is also considered to ensure the some positive and negative moment capacity throughout the beam in order to allow the unexpected deformation and the moment distribution from severe earthquake action. Okay, then the provision for the LD is there, that is a development length. So in an exterior joint, the anchor head line LD should be considered along with plus 10 time diameter to be considered along the 90-degree band to be provided at top and bottom, as shown in the figure number 3. So if you see that anchorage of the beam in an external joint should be like this. Okay, so this is a typical arrangement of the beam is there. Along with that we have to provide the 90-degree band of this vertical reinforcement to be provided, and it can be calculated as LD plus 10 dB. Okay, so this provision is already there in IS 456 2000. Okay, so please refer this IS 456 2000 for this detailing. Okay, also SP 43's code is also there. Along with in that the detailing of the reinforcement is also available. Okay, so this anchorage of the reinforcement, the beam reinforcement into the column is very very important, because it provides the effective bond between the column and beam, because as we know that the beam transfer the forces to the column, and if it is not effectively anchored with the column, then these forces will be disturbed. Okay, so that the effective way of transferring the mechanism of the load transfer will be disturbed at the joint itself, and because of that many times we see that the failure of the RCC structure always occurs at the joint itself. So this is the main part that we have to consider. Okay, so along with that more criteria and some parameters are also there in this time, so we will discuss that in our next lecture. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.